The bread hadn't even hit the table when she snapped at me. Use the other fork, she hissed without looking up. I paused midair, confused. Everyone else at the table was still talking about marketing trends and someone's recent trip to Portland, but now I was frozen in a moment where the wrong utensil had turned me into a public embarrassment. I quickly swapped forks, pretending I knew the difference. I didn't. I just wanted to disappear. She laughed 10 seconds later at someone's joke, leaned across the table, and touched the wrist of the guy to her left. She laughed too hard. A little too long. Like I wasn't sitting right next to her. Like I wasn't even there. The waiter came by with wine. She tasted it like she was on a Food Network show. I spilled a few drops of water when reaching for my glass, and she muttered under her breath, "God, could you try not to be so, you?" I pretended not to hear that part. But her friend did. Her name was Corinne. We'd maybe spoken 3 times total. She had a calm energy, one of those people who rarely smiles but somehow still makes you feel seen. I never knew where I stood with her. She didn't say anything right away. Just kept watching. The evening wore on like sandpaper. Every conversation, she found a way to shrink me. Someone complimented the necklace I gave her last Christmas. She said he picked it off a website. Took him 5 minutes. A harmless comment to others. But I knew the truth. I'd visited 12 shops. I'd had it engraved. It was subtle. Smart. The kind of cruelty you couldn't defend yourself against without sounding petty. And then dessert came. I hadn't said much for half an hour. Just nodded, smiled, faded. Someone said something about funny childhood stories. I don't know what possessed me, but I shared one. Just a little story about my cousin and I getting stuck in a canoe on a frozen lake. Everyone chuckled politely. And she said loudly, "Isn't it wild how the most boring people have the longest stories?" Silence. That kind of silence that wraps around the room like plastic. Her friends shifted uncomfortably. No one defended me. Except one person. Corinne stood up. "Hey," she said to me almost casually. "Let's get some air." She didn't wait for me to respond. Just turned and walked toward the terrace doors. I followed. We stood outside as the wind picked up. The street lights blinked below like they were struggling to stay alive. She turned to me. Not with pity. Not with anger. Just something sharper. "You don't know, do you?" she said. My stomach dropped. "What?" I asked. She exhaled slowly. "She's not just mean, Graham. She's cheating." I blinked. "No, she's not," I whispered. But even I didn't believe myself when I said it. Corinne looked at me, not with sympathy, but with the look someone gives you right before they push the truth into your chest like a blade. "She left the table twice tonight. You didn't even notice. She didn't go to the bathroom." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. "She's not hiding it well anymore," Corinne added. "And I don't even know why I'm telling you. Maybe because no one else will." The door opened behind us. My wife's voice called out cheerfully, "You two okay out here?" I turned around slowly. My hands were shaking. Corinne whispered, "Ask her what she was doing between the salad and the wine." And then she walked back inside, heels tapping like a metronome to the unraveling beat of my marriage. I stood there, holding onto the railing, staring down at the street like it had answers. That was the night everything started to come undone. And the next morning, I found the first piece of proof. The following morning, I woke up before the sun. My mind had been chewing on Corinne's words all night like a dog with a bone. "She's not just mean, Graham. She's cheating." That single sentence had embedded itself deep into my chest, pulsing with every heartbeat like a bruise I couldn't stop pressing. I watched Dana sleep for a while. Her mouth was slightly open, her breathing calm and even, like nothing in her world had shifted. But mine had. I couldn't look at her the same way. Her phone was on the nightstand. I stared at it, debating with myself, fingers twitching. I had never snooped through her things. Not once. That morning I did. I'm not proud of it. But the moment I picked it up and saw the notification pop up, "Thanks for last night," face blowing a kiss, my stomach clenched into a knot so tight it felt like my ribs would crack. The name was just initials, M, no photo. No history. She had deleted the thread. But she hadn't removed the preview from the lock screen. I stood frozen in place, the phone glowing in my hand like a guilty lantern. My thoughts began spiraling. Who was M? One of her coworkers? Someone from the gym? Had I seen him before? Had I shaken his hand? She stirred and I quickly put the phone back before she opened her eyes. I didn't want a confrontation, not yet. I needed to be sure. I needed to find out the truth on my own. So I played it safe. I played it dumb. I made her coffee that morning like I always did. She kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. She even smiled. But every word she said after that felt like it came from a stranger's mouth. That afternoon I reached out to Corinne. I didn't have her number. We weren't close, but I found her Instagram through Dana's tagged photos. I didn't even follow her, I just messaged her out of nowhere. Me, what did you mean last night? About the cheating. She replied within 10 minutes. Corinne, you're not ready. Me, try me. There was a long pause. Then 3 little dots. Then a message I'll never forget. Corinne, they meet in the parking lot behind her office building. Thursdays. Around 6:30. Don't ask how I know. I reread that message a dozen times. Thursdays. Today was Thursday. Every instinct in my body told me to drop it. Walk away. Protect myself. But I couldn't. If what she said was true, I had to see it. I had to look it in the face no matter how much it wrecked me. I told Dana I had to work late, some nonsense about a client file being delayed. She barely blinked. Okay, babe, she said, smiling down at her laptop. I might grab dinner with Macy after work anyway. Macy? Sure. I parked my car across the street from the lot at 6:15 p.m. The area was dim, partially lit by a busted street lamp flickering like a dying firefly. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, my chest tight, thoughts racing in 100 directions. I had no idea what I was expecting to see, some dramatic movie moment, or maybe nothing at all, and I'd feel like a paranoid idiot. At 6:38 p.m. I saw her. Dana walked out the side entrance of her office building in her gray blazer, the one I'd bought her for her promotion last year. She glanced around casual, but there was tension in her movements. Then a black SUV pulled in. Not a flashy car. Just regular. Too regular. The driver got out. Tall. Athletic build. Maybe late 30s. Wore a ball cap pulled low and didn't say much. Dana smiled, but it wasn't her work smile. It was softer. Familiar. Intimate. I'd seen that smile before, just never directed at someone else. He leaned in and whispered something. She laughed, touched his arm. And then they kissed. It wasn't hesitant. It wasn't a goodbye peck. It was a full, slow kiss, the kind that makes time slow down even if you want to speed it up. She looked happy. My breath caught in my throat and I sat there, frozen, trembling. My hands were ice even though the heater was running. I felt like a statue made of glass, brittle and seconds away from shattering. I didn't take a photo. I didn't confront them. I just sat there and watched until they got back in his car and drove away together. I must have sat in that car for another hour, staring at the empty lot. That night, I didn't sleep. Dana came home at 10:24 p.m. I heard her kick off her shoes, hum to herself in the kitchen, open the fridge for a drink. She padded into the bedroom like nothing happened, told me she was stuffed from sushi. I said nothing. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt like a ghost in my own home. But I wasn't going to stay a ghost. I had a plan. The morning after I watched my wife kiss another man, I woke up to the smell of eggs and cinnamon. Dana had made breakfast. French toast, even. She hadn't cooked on a weekday in over a year. Her voice was chipper when she said, "Good morning, sleepyhead. Thought I'd treat you." I sat at the kitchen table staring at my plate like it was some kind of twisted joke. She leaned down and kissed the top of my head. If she noticed how stiff I went, she didn't let on. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the plate into the wall and demand she tell me where she'd been the night before. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not yet. Something in me had cracked wide open, but another part was still holding on, watching, gathering. My therapist, back when I saw one, used to tell me that people in denial don't break all at once. They chip. They leak. They bleed slowly until they either patch it up or drown in it. I was drowning in it. That day at work, I couldn't focus. Every spreadsheet blurred, every number felt pointless. I stared at the monitor but kept seeing her hand on his chest, the way she tilted her head when he whispered to her, that soft smile I hadn't seen in months. It made me feel like I'd been living in a version of my marriage that only existed in my head. By the time I got home, I knew I needed help, but not the kind of therapist could offer this time. I called Corinne. I didn't even bother texting. I needed to hear a voice that wasn't mine echoing in this nightmare. She picked up after the second ring, her tone flat but not unfriendly. "I saw them," I said. "No introduction. Just truth." "I know," she replied. "You don't need me to say it." "I do," I admitted. There was a pause. Then she said, "Okay. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. And you didn't deserve it." Those words broke something inside me. Not in a painful way, but in a releasing way. Like I'd been holding my breath for a year and finally exhaled. "I need to know everything," I whispered. She didn't hesitate. Over the next 10 minutes, Corinne told me what she knew. It wasn't just Thursdays. Dana had been using her monthly book club nights to see him. Corinne had seen them twice before, once outside a downtown hotel and another time in a bar on the east side, far from where Dana and I ever went together. She hadn't said anything earlier because, in her words, I didn't think you were ready to believe it. She's not just cheating, Graham. She's rewriting who she is. With him, she gets to be someone different, someone unburdened by history or real responsibility. You've become the mirror she's trying to break. That hit me hard. I'd always thought marriage was about evolving together. I didn't realize that while I'd been struggling to fix things, buying her favorite snacks, cleaning the house, trying to make her laugh, she'd already packed an emotional bag and left. The woman in my bed wasn't really with me. She was just staying out of convenience. Or cowardice. Or maybe both. After we hung up, I sat in the dark and opened a blank document on my laptop. I started writing everything down: dates, conversations, patterns. I wasn't sure why at first. Maybe I thought I needed a record in case things got legal. Maybe I just wanted to see it on paper, make it real. But by the time I had 3 pages written, I realized I was doing it for me. Because for once, I wasn't ignoring what I saw. I wasn't minimizing. I wasn't rationalizing. I was documenting the collapse. That night, I made her dinner. Chicken marsala, her favorite. I poured wine, lit candles. She came home in high spirits, kissed my cheek, and said, "Wow, what's the occasion?" "Just felt like being good to you," I said with a smile I barely held together. We sat and ate. She told me about her hectic day, her exhausting meetings. I listened and nodded, filing every lie into that mental folder that was growing heavier by the hour. After dinner, she said she was going to take a long bath. I helped clean the dishes and waited until she was in the tub before I walked into the laundry room, opened the drawer where she kept her gym bag, and found what I was looking for: her second phone. I didn't even know it existed until Corinne mentioned it in passing. Dana had joked once about needing a work burner so she could stay off the clock on weekends. I thought she was kidding. She wasn't. The phone was locked, but she used the same passcode she'd used on her old one. She thought she was clever, but she was lazy when it came to patterns. It opened on the first try. What I saw made my vision blur. Messages. Dozens of them. Photos. Hotel bookings. Voice notes. Conversations about me. About how pathetic I was. About how she felt like a babysitter when she was with me. She even said I smelled like sadness. I don't even know what that means. And in one message she wrote, "He still thinks I'm his." That's the wildest part. I sat down on the floor, the phone resting on my knee, and for the first time in all of this, I didn't cry. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. The woman I had built my life around had built another life behind my back, and now I was holding it in my hands. I heard the water stop. Her footsteps across the tile. I slipped the phone back where I found it, wiped the tears that had eventually come, and put on the same face I always wore. But something in me had shifted. This was no longer about heartbreak. It was about exposure. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to confront her with rage. I was going to do something far more devastating. I was going to let her reveal herself. I don't know what it says about me that I didn't confront her immediately. Maybe it means I'm weak. Maybe I was too afraid to hear her confirm what I already knew. Or maybe, in some sick part of me, I needed her to dig the hole just a little deeper so I wouldn't ever try to pull her out of it. Either way, the decision was made. I wasn't going to tell her that I had her secret phone in my hands last night, or that I had heard her voice messages to someone she called M. I was going to do what I've always done, play dumb. But this time I wasn't doing it to survive. I was doing it to win. The next morning I left her a handwritten note beside her coffee mug. Nothing dramatic. Just, "Book club night? Hope it's a good one. I'll be out late myself." She smiled when she saw it, even chuckled a little, and said, "You're being sweet again lately." I like that. I just nodded and walked out, holding in every bitter thought I had like a pill that was burning my tongue. I didn't go to work. I drove 2 blocks away, parked on the far end of a strip mall, and waited. Around 5:40 p.m. I saw her car roll past, headed downtown. She was in that green trench coat I always said made her look like a detective in a noir film. I followed from a distance, carefully. She didn't look back once. She never does. That's what scared me the most, honestly. Her confidence. Her comfort in betrayal. That was the part one hadn't expected. Not guilt. Not hesitation. Just routine. She didn't go to a house. She didn't go to a bar. She pulled into a business-class hotel with tinted windows and no obvious branding. One of those places that you don't find by accident. She didn't hesitate. Just parked, stepped out with her phone in hand, and disappeared inside. I didn't follow. Instead, I sat in my car, heart pounding, and sent Corinne a text. "Me, you were right. Again." Her response was immediate. "Corinne, do you need me?" I didn't even know how to answer that. She'd become this strange, unexpected constant in my chaos. She wasn't overly emotional. She didn't offer platitudes. She was just there, anchored, real. I didn't reply, but I took a screenshot of the hotel parking lot and sent it to myself, saving the timestamp. Proof. Quiet, solid proof. When Dana came home around midnight, she didn't say much. Just kicked off her heels and said, "Ugh, we picked the longest book this month. I don't even think I'm gonna finish it." I smiled and told her I'd left some leftover pasta in the fridge. She kissed my cheek. I could smell the cologne on her. It wasn't mine. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly, wondering how long she'd been doing this. Was it new? Had it started when I forgot our anniversary last year because of a family emergency? Or had she been pulling away even before that? One lie at a time, one dinner at a time, until she couldn't even see me anymore? I thought I was out of tears, but somehow I wasn't. I cried into a pillow, quietly, like a child afraid of waking the house. I hated myself for it, but I also knew I needed to feel it. I needed to grieve what I thought we were. But in the morning, I didn't wake up with sadness. I woke up with a plan. I didn't want revenge. Not the petty kind, anyway. I wanted exposure. I wanted her to sit in the wreckage of what she'd built with lies and realize that I had seen it all, and that I hadn't shouted or screamed or thrown things. I had just seen her, and I wanted her to feel that shame from the inside out. So I printed the screenshots. I made copies of the messages. I even transcribed her voice note where she laughed and said, "He's like a golden retriever. Loyal, dumb, and always waiting at the door." That one cut the deepest. That's how she saw me. That's what I'd become in her eyes. I took all of it and slipped it into a plain manila envelope. No label, no note, just truth in a paper shell. And then I waited. 2 days later, we had dinner plans with another couple, friends of hers, not mine. She made a whole production out of it. New dress, fresh hair, even asked my opinion on shoes. I told her she looked beautiful. I meant it. That was the most painful part. Even knowing everything, part of me still looked at her and saw the woman I fell in love with. Or maybe just the version I hoped she still was, buried somewhere beneath the wreckage. When we got to the restaurant, I excused myself and went to the front desk. I handed the hostess the envelope and said, "Please give this to the brunette in the green dress at table 12. Just say someone dropped it off for her." She raised an eyebrow but nodded. I returned to the table, heart thudding. Dana was mid-story about her coworker's wedding disaster. Laughing, charming, effortless. And then the hostess arrived. She handed Dana the envelope with a polite smile and walked off. Dana froze. Her hand hovered over it for a moment, then slowly pulled back the flap. As she read the contents, page by page, her face changed. Not all at once. First, a flicker of confusion. Then recognition. Then fear. Her mouth opened slightly. She didn't speak. Our friends noticed. Asked if she was okay. She mumbled something, stood up, and rushed to the restroom with the envelope clutched to her chest like a stolen wallet. I sat there calmly and took a sip of my water. She stayed in the restroom for 15 minutes. When she returned, her eyes were glassy, and her smile was gone. She sat down silently and didn't touch her food. She kept glancing at me, but I never looked directly back at her. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to let the silence stretch like a canyon between us, echoing everything she never thought I'd find out. And for once, I wasn't the golden retriever waiting by the door. I was the ghost she couldn't ignore. The drive home after that dinner was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Dana didn't speak. She kept her gaze out the window, one hand clutching her phone like it could rescue her from the reality sinking in around her. Her face was pale, her jaw clenched. I drove in silence, my hands steady on the wheel. Inside, though, my heart was a war zone, relief, pain, power, grief, every emotion taking turns hitting the gas. When we pulled into the driveway, she didn't get out right away. I stepped out, walked up the path, and unlocked the front door. I didn't wait for her. I didn't turn back. I let her follow me, let her feel the silence. She entered about a minute later. I heard the soft click of the door, her heels on the floorboards. She stopped behind me, but I didn't turn around. "Graham," she said, her voice low, shaky. "What was that?" I turned slowly, keeping my expression neutral. "You tell me." Her eyes flickered, searching mine for some angle, some chance to explain it all away like a bad dream. "I don't know how you got those messages, those pictures." You don't know." I interrupted, quieter than she expected. "Or you didn't think I ever would?" Her mouth opened. Closed. "It's complicated." "No," I said firmly. "It's not. It's betrayal, Dana. It's you sneaking out of hotel lobbies while texting someone that I smell like sadness." My voice cracked at the end. I hated that. But I didn't stop. "I didn't mean it like that," she said, taking a step toward me. "Then how did you mean it?" I asked, stepping back. "Because it read pretty clearly. You humiliated me, mocked me in front of your friends, lied to my face, and then laughed behind my back." She started crying. Quiet, wet tears running down cheeks that had only hours earlier been glowing with fake charm over a wine glass. I had seen her cry before, but this time it felt empty. It wasn't grief. It was exposure. Her illusion had cracked and she was scrambling to gather the pieces before they hit the floor. "You never noticed me anymore," she said suddenly, voice rising. "You went quiet, you stopped laughing, you looked like someone waiting to be forgotten. And I was tired of trying to feel like your wife when you felt like a ghost." I flinched. The irony. "I became a ghost," I said, breath-catching, "because I was living with someone who already buried me. You just never handed me the shovel." Silence flooded the room. She collapsed onto the couch, shaking her head. "You don't understand." "You're right," I replied. "I don't. I wouldn't trade loyalty for attention. I wouldn't treat someone like they were disposable just because they stopped performing. I wouldn't lie for months and act like I was doing them a favor." She looked up, her mascara streaked, her mouth trembling. "What do you want from me?" I didn't answer right away. I just walked over to the small drawer beneath our coffee table and pulled out a second envelope. "This one thicker. This one sealed. I started this when I noticed you were disappearing," I said. "It has everything. All the messages. The photos. The timestamps. And a letter I wrote you 2 nights ago when I still thought maybe you would tell the truth before I saw it with my own eyes." Her hands trembled as she took it. "I'm not using it," I added. "Yet. I don't want revenge. I want to understand how we got here. But I'm not going to let you keep pretending nothing happened." She nodded slowly, then whispered, "Is this it?" That question broke something in me. "I don't know," I said honestly. "You tell me, Dana. Is this the ending, or is this just the first honest moment we've had in months?" She didn't answer. She just sat there, envelope in lap, staring at nothing. I left the room and slept in the guest bedroom that night. Not because I hated her. Not even because I was done. But because I needed space from the version of myself that used to believe every lie just to keep our peace. And yet, I still wasn't prepared for what she did next. Because the next morning she vanished. When I woke up the next morning, the house felt wrong. Not quiet wrong. The kind of stillness that doesn't come from peace but from absence. The kind that makes you sit up before your eyes are even fully open. I listened. No coffee brewing. No shower running. No drawers opening. Just silence. I stepped into the hallway, the air colder than it should have been. Her bedroom door was open. The bed was made, which she never did. Her phone charger was gone. The light blue robe she always left draped across the foot of the bed? Also gone. I walked downstairs slowly, checking for signs, keys on the hook. No. Shoes by the door? Only mine. It hit me then. She was gone. There was no note. No dramatic farewell. Just absence. Like she'd slipped out of the world without a trace. For a second, I wondered if I had dreamt the whole confrontation, the dinner, the envelope. But then I saw it, the thick envelope I had given her. Still unopened. She hadn't even read my letter. I sank into the chair across from it, trying to process the emptiness. And then my phone buzzed. It was from our bank. A notification. Withdrawal, $3,000 joint checking. My heart stopped. I opened the banking app and scrolled. 3 more transactions had hit overnight. 2 airline tickets booked through a third-party travel site, a large payment to a boutique hotel in San Diego, and an electronics store purchase that looked like someone buying a brand new phone and tablet. It took less than a minute to realize what she'd done. She hadn't just left. She cleaned us out. And not just the joint checking. I opened her shared savings next. Another withdrawal. Then our emergency fund. She drained everything we built together without a word, without warning, and vanished like a thief in the night. My hands trembled as I scrolled, breath catching in my throat. Not because I cared about the money, not in that moment, but because it confirmed what I hadn't been able to admit even after all the betrayal. She never planned to stay and work through it. She planned to disappear the moment I saw her for who she really was. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I tried texting, but the message wouldn't deliver. She blocked me. I stood in the middle of our living room surrounded by furniture we'd picked out together, books we'd read, photos we'd framed, and suddenly none of it meant anything. It was just a museum of moments built on a lie. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just felt hollow, like someone had reached into my chest overnight and scooped everything out. I spent the next hour on the phone with the bank, freezing accounts, flagging unauthorized activity. It felt surreal, like I was reporting a stranger, not my wife. But that's what she'd become, wasn't it? A stranger with my name on her debit card and a suitcase full of my trust. Around noon, I got a call from Corinne. "Are you okay?" she asked. Her voice sounded tighter than usual. "She's gone," I said quietly. "She took everything." Corinne didn't sound surprised. "I figured she might." "You knew." "She hinted at it once," she admitted. "Said something about wanting to start fresh without baggage." I didn't think she meant it literally. I almost laughed, but it came out as more of a cough. "Can I come by?" Corinne asked. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah." 15 minutes later, she was there. No makeup, hair pulled into a loose bun, hoodie and jeans. She looked like someone who had seen too much and still chose to show up. We sat on the back porch, wrapped in silence. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't offer platitudes. She just handed me a small envelope. "I didn't give this to you before because, well, I wasn't sure you were ready," she said. I opened it slowly. Inside were photos. Blurry but undeniable. Dana with the man from the hotel. Different days. Different outfits. Same look on her face. The one I thought belonged to me. The one I thought she only used when we were alone and safe and in love. "She's been planning this for longer than you think," Corinne said softly. "I don't know where she went, but I have a feeling she's not coming back." And I believed her. I sat there, fingers gripping the photos, and realized something else. I didn't want her to come back. Not anymore. Not after this. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was abandonment. Theft. Cowardice. Still, what I didn't know then, what I couldn't have predicted, was that she hadn't just taken money. She'd taken something else. Something far more personal. And I wouldn't discover it until the following evening. The sun had already dipped behind the trees by the time I wandered back inside, leaving Corinne on the porch with her arms wrapped around her knees. I didn't say goodbye, I just drifted like a shadow into the house that now felt like an empty shell of everything I used to recognize. My footsteps echoed louder than usual. It was like the silence had expanded, grown teeth. I didn't even know what I was walking toward until I found myself standing in front of the hallway closet. The door creaked as I opened it. Something was off. There were things missing, boxes that used to be tucked behind the coats, folders we kept in that little portable safe. I dropped to my knees and yanked it open. It was empty. I froze. She hadn't just taken the money. She had taken my personal files. Old documents I hadn't looked at in years. Legal ones. Copies of my birth certificate. My passport. Financial records I kept from before our marriage. Even the manila folder with the final paperwork from my father's estate, the one thing I had from him that she never understood the meaning of. It was all gone. My throat tightened. I staggered back onto my feet and began tearing through drawers, cabinets, shelves. Every place I kept something that belonged to just me. And with every open drawer, I felt the weight drop further into my gut. She hadn't left. She had erased me. Bit by bit, in the quiet corners of our life, she'd been collecting my identity like someone stealing souvenirs before boarding a plane. I collapsed onto the couch and buried my face in my hands. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know what she could use those things for. Open accounts? Disappear deeper? Claim assets I didn't even realize she knew about? Every scenario made me feel smaller, like I had lost more than a wife, I had lost my reflection. That night, sleep didn't come. I stared at the ceiling fan until it blurred, haunted by images of her calmly packing her bag while I slept. Maybe even humming. Maybe even relieved. I wanted to believe she had loved me once, even if it had faded, but in that moment it felt like she had been playing a long game I was never even aware of. The next evening, something even stranger happened. I got a text from an unknown number. No name. No signature. Just a single sentence. "You should check your credit report." My fingers trembled as I clicked through the steps. It took a few minutes to verify everything. And then I saw it, 3 new credit cards opened in my name. One with a maxed out balance. Another with a pending purchase from a jewelry store in California. The third was flagged for suspicious activity and frozen automatically. I didn't breathe. Not for a full minute. I called the fraud hotline immediately, my voice cracking as I answered their questions as they walked me through the process of freezing everything, flagging activity, protecting what little remained. It felt like I was scraping myself off the floor, trying to tape the pieces back together with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. After the call, I sat in the dark living room, staring at the dim glow of the router in the corner. Blinking. 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 Like it knew something I didn't. My phone buzzed again. Same number. New message. You think you were the only one? I stood up so fast the coffee table nearly tipped over. My heart hammered in my ears. I replied immediately. Me, who is this? No answer. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. The number was already disconnected. I sank to the floor. I didn't know what that message meant, but I knew it was a breadcrumb. A clue. And for the first time since Dana left, I realized I wasn't just the victim of her betrayal. I might have been just one of them. And someone else was trying to make sure I found out the whole truth before she vanished completely. I didn't sleep that night. The messages, the fraud, the unknown number, it all played in loops behind my eyes. I sat on the floor for hours, staring at the wall, numb and spiraling. But sometime around 5 a.m. something inside me shifted. A quiet, unfamiliar thing. Not rage. Not sorrow. Resolve. Not the kind that shouts or slams doors, but the kind that whispers enough. Enough fear. Enough shame. Enough giving my energy to someone who had stolen everything and left behind nothing but questions. By noon, I had filed a full police report, spoken to an identity theft specialist, and started the process of reclaiming what was mine. I opened new accounts, froze every compromised detail, and scheduled a meeting with a lawyer. Every step was heavy. Every conversation felt like dragging a chain behind me. But I kept going, because I realized that if I didn't fight for myself now, no one would. The next surprise came the following week, this time from a different place entirely. An email arrived from a man named Alan. Subject line, "You don't know me, but I think we were both lied to." He explained that he had met Dana on a work trip nearly a year ago. She told him she was separated. She told him she was planning a divorce but hadn't worked up the courage to make it official. They dated long distance for months. He had no idea she was married, until she stopped answering his calls, and then he found my name in one of her old emails. We talked on the phone that night for nearly 2 hours. It was surreal, two men both strung along by the same woman, both used in different ways. He sounded just as stunned as I had been. But he wasn't bitter. He was kind. At the end of the call, he said, "I think we both got lucky in a way. We got out before it cost us more." And weirdly, I believed him. Over the next few weeks, life began to stitch itself back together, one thread at a time. I changed the locks, donated the things she'd left behind, deleted the photos from my phone, then from my backup drive. I thought each delete would hurt, but instead it felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. Corinne checked in on me often. More than I expected. At first it was texts, "How's the lawyer stuff going? Need help finding a good accountant?" But eventually it became coffee on Saturdays. Walks in the park when neither of us had anything to say, but silence felt safe. She never pushed, never analyzed, never asked for more than I was ready to give. But I found myself looking forward to seeing her, hearing her laugh in that dry, quiet way that always made me smile, just a little. About 6 weeks after Dana disappeared, I got a final letter in the mail. No return address. No explanation. Just 2 pieces of paper inside. The first was a typed note from Dana. Cold. Vague. It said she'd made mistakes, that she needed to escape everything, and that she hoped I would someday forgive the damage. There was no apology for the theft. No explanation for the lies. Just a kind of resignation, like someone closing a book halfway through and walking away. The second paper was a cashier's check. Not for the full amount, but a decent chunk of the money she'd taken. It didn't make it right, but it made it over. I didn't cash it right away. I waited. I kept it in a drawer. Not out of spite, but because I wanted to know I could survive without it. And I did. I found a new job within 2 months. A better one. One that paid more and gave me back something I hadn't realized I'd lost in the fog of that marriage, my sense of worth. I moved to a smaller apartment, but it was mine. Everything inside it was mine. Every decision, every painting, every plant. I bought a beat-up old chair that nobody liked but me. I made Saturday pancakes. I read again. I didn't check the time every hour waiting for someone to come home. And as strange as it still felt sometimes, I caught myself smiling more. Laughing at little things. Not because life was perfect, but because it was mine again. Corinne and I remained close. Whether or not it turned into something more, I didn't know. Maybe it didn't matter. What mattered was that somewhere in the mess, I'd found someone who reminded me I wasn't crazy. Who saw the truth when I was too afraid to. What started as the worst night of my life, a dinner full of small humiliations, became the beginning of everything I never knew I needed. I thought I'd lost everything. But in reality, I finally had the chance to start over. This time with my eyes open.